everyone, welcome to #LadiesSpeak. This week's topic is going to be on the United States immigration debate, and so we're going to have Taylor here answering a couple of the questions regarding a lot of the big questions surrounding the issue and how that affects not just us, but our further generations as we see this topic growing and growing.
Perfect. Well, I'm so excited to dive in deeper to this debate. A lot of this you will not find on the news, so we're kind of looking at both sides of this debate. So let's get started.
All right, so the first question, also a bit of like the background on this immigration debate is, what is the immigration population of the current United States?
Yeah, so immigrants compose almost 14% of the U.S. population, and that's roughly around 45 million people out of a total of nearly 332 million. And this was taken in 2020, and that number has only grown. So together, immigrants and their United States-born children make up about 26% of the people living in the U.S. Researchers have predicted that this number will reach 36% by the year 2065. So, large number there. This number has steadily grown since 1970, where there were fewer than 10 million immigrants. Many of these immigrants are from Mexico and are coming up the southern border, while other common countries include India, China, and the Philippines. According to a recent study put out by the Yale study, the undocumented population is estimated to be around 22 million people. In May of 2022, Customs and Border Protection tracked 239,416 people trying to cross the southern border, which is the highest number of people the U.S. has seen in over 2 decades. And since July, the illegal border crossing has increased by nearly 300%. Studies have shown that the Border Patrol is averaging 400 people a day entering the United States.
So why are these people crossing the border?
A lot of them are just here to seek opportunity. They know that under the current administration, America will provide them with a job, food, clothing, shelter, and education for them and their families.
So should Americans be concerned with the rise of the illegal border crossing?
Between June and July this year, the fentanyl seizures has increased more than 200%, bringing the total to more than 10,500 pounds of fentanyl seized this fiscal year alone. So fentanyl is now the leading cause of death in American adults ages 18 to 45. Many are arguing that this is dangerous and deadly as drug continues to be smuggled across the southern border. Drug overdoses will continue to significantly increase nationwide. An issue that is not talked about much is that human trafficking is a major issue at our borders, and many families are sending their young children over the borders alone, and young girls are getting trapped into this. These children are then smuggled over the border, and traffickers are sent out into our country to prey on American kids. In addition, we do not have enough houses and resources to support all of these people coming into our country. Situations such as Martha's Vineyard, which just occurred, are happening because we do not have the capacity to hold millions of more people at once. Americans need to understand that their tax dollars are going towards giving these immigrants a home, paying them to take your jobs, and giving them free education.
All right, so what is the difference between illegal border crossing and legal border crossing?
Yeah, so illegal border crossing is when people just come over the border without any green cards or any cards showing that they have proof to work in America or go to schools here. Legal immigration is where people take a test to get into America, or they have their visas letting them know that, hey, they can be in America for 9 years or 5 years, and they can work at this company and go to school at this university.
All right, and so how are our leaders approaching this issue, both on the conservative side and the more democratic side?
Yeah, so we'll look at Trump's approach when he was in office. So Trump vowed to expand the wall along the U.S. and Mexico border, which he claimed would stop the drugs and gangs from entering the country. Approximately 450 miles of the border was built before the Biden administration stopped construction in January of 2022. Other measures included sending thousands of active duty troops to the border, threatening Mexico with tariffs if it did not increase its own border enforcement, and attempting to cut federal funding to so-called sanctuary cities or jurisdictions that refuse to enforce federal immigration directives. If we look at Biden's approach, Biden's administration is working towards overturning of almost all of Trump's immigration policies. Biden's steps to undo the Trump-era policies have included reducing immigration enforcement inside the United States, ending the travel bans, lifting the suspension of green card processing, and halting the construction of the wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. His administration has also expanded the TPS protections, cancels safe third country agreements, and raises the refugee camp for the fiscal year of 2022 to 125,000 after initially maintaining the limit imposed under Trump.
All right, and so how are these states individually handling this issue, since it can be an issue on a federal level, but also on a state level?
Yeah, so kind of just depends on what state you're looking at and how they treat unauthorized immigrants. Some states, such as California, are allowing undocumented immigrants to apply for a driver's license, receive in-state tuition at universities, and obtain other benefits. On the other end of the spectrum, states such as Arizona has passed laws permitting police to question people they suspect of having unauthorized about their immigration status.
All right, and so on a biblical implication of this issue that we have here today, we can look at Romans 13, 1 through 7. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection, not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of consciousness. For because of this, you will also pay taxes, for the authorities are ministers of God, attending to this very thing. Pay to all what is owed to them, taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed. And so these types of teachings, like from 1 Peter or even Titus, urge citizens to obey secular authorities. But we are also seeing that in the Bible, God delegates civil government to focus on justice, not just mercy. And so regardless on what end of the spectrum you lay on this debate, on this issue, we have to look at it also from a biblical implication. Should we be looking at this to hand over justice to these illegal immigrants, or handling them more mercy? We are taught to love our neighbor, but also to protect our individuals in our certain governing authorities. Taylor, do you have anything else to add?
Well, next week we're going to dive a little more into what is occurring once people come over here and immigrate here legally. So please join us next week as we discuss further into this topic. And thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye.